With the new update, some things have changed, and as someone who plays, I play solo, so it doesn't really matter for me, but it does matter for other players. And here, I was playing this game, and I found some other people, and we started talking about the whole why this happened and why it kind of sucks. And it definitely does for players in specific games, which leads into like a very good, not idea, but just subject of how we communicate through games. Games like, and we're getting off topic, games like Minecraft, where communicating without texting is crouching, and some other games, that became a thing where crouching was like a sign saying hello. But for this game specifically, we don't have that. What we do have is the emotes / e-cheer / e-wave / e-laugh, and it's kind of sad because some games you're not able to use those because some players that were in the game couldn't talk to us, and so we just did the old way of using the Roblox little emotes that were built in. And it's just very interesting of like how we communicate and how it's such a big part in anything that we do, anything. So to have that taken away has definitely brought some uproar. And I haven't seen any real I've only seen players talk about it, but I've seen videos and pictures of people protesting, and I don't think it's inherently bad. I just think they could have done a little bit better. And they're not the only games that deal with this. That's the thing. To put in my own thoughts, I was talking to them about this, about certain games have built-in chats. Take instance, Club Penguin, Wizard 101, they have a built-in text, so that way people could still communicate, but it's limited so that, certain things won't happen. And so in my journey of thinking about how this would affect certain games, more specifically the one that I've been playing more recently, and while doing that, I tend to look at my recommended for me. I like to just look at it, see what it is, and I saw this, and I didn't know what it was at the time, but once I joined, I realized what kind of game it was, and it reminded me of something. It reminded me of some other games that I've played, and they're similar, but this one's a little more different. It's kind of a little eerie, with loading in of 1,000 pages and giant structures of just papers. It kind of seemed like nonsense. And the thing is, there's so many papers, there's so many things that you can read, but I was just curious of why everyone was building up. That's something interesting. And I know some games like these tend to have badges, so I followed where the pages led me. And it led me to something interesting and very, I don't know, it just stirred up my brain a little bit about the idea of meaning, I guess. Meaning and purpose. And it's like, well, all these notes that we have, people saying some interesting things and some memes and stuff, but some of them are definitely not great. But some of them are very meaningful and interesting. It's so eerie though, just to see the stacks of towers of papers leading up to the void, the white void to be exact. And it's just cluttered in chaos. And it's really, really, really much about chaos. There's so much papers and it was very hard to climb up. But at some point in my little journey of venturing, I did find some less chaos of papers and more of a straightforward path, and you'll see eventually. But I struggle to climb, and the thing about this that's even more scary is once you fall, you cannot come back. You are done. But there is one way in which you can return. And I didn't learn this until later. These are little structures. And these structures sometimes are covered by thousands of paper and you can't reach it. But there are a few that are untouched and you can still somewhat get to it. And if you place a paper, you can actually teleport to that paper. So that's very interesting. And I think it's kind of helpful to just venturing more. And if you don't know me, I collect badges. And sometimes they're pretty easy. Or sometimes they're the most difficult ones that I've ever achieved in my own personal book. And I looked it up. There are badges. And there's no really good description of how to get these badges. And there's not a lot of videos on this exact game, which is really interesting. You would think that there would be videos or just more content about this, but there isn't. And I think it's because it's like every other note game where you place a note and that's it. But what I find interesting compared to the other games is the other games, they have content. They have things that you can do. They have clues for you to go around and look. But this game does not have a set goal. It's really like a sandbox. If you played games like Minecraft, and I'm saying Minecraft because it's such a good example, and their whole idea is creativity. You get to choose your journey of what you want to do. You get to build your own world. That applies to the same game as here. Compared to the note games, you place a note, you place information, you place whatever you want, memes, and that's it. And then there's the game. But with this, it's like, it's just so interesting. And we're going back to this again. We're doing in little circles of like how interesting it is. So people build like amazing houses and then they'll just get griefed by like other players and placing their notes to block the entrance. But we see that people build around that. And that's what makes it so interesting. It's your imagination. You create what you want to do. And that's the beauty of Sandbox, is you get to decide what you want to do. This game is like, not to be that person, but it's so interesting to see. And I'm sad that I didn't see this before, but I'm sure it was interesting to just see an empty box of just void, nothing. And imagine the progress over time of people placing notes, making structures out of just paper, and see how creative people can get, or just see how annoying they can be. But as I climb up on this specific structure, and this was created by a very specific player, only I knew it because there was a lot of papers thanking this person for building this place, this big tall tower. I'm not sure if I'm going to correct this or not. Lekrum is the name of the player. And if you look on the leaderboard, it happens to be that they are on the leaderboard of the most paper, which is cool. And on my journey of just trying to see what's beyond the void, you get to see a bit of comfort. It reminds us that even if you just give a blank sheet of paper, watching what people do, even if it's something simple as ripping it, it's interesting because not every person is the same. Every person can follow a rule or they can simply go around the object that's in their way. It's the idea that we create things in the environment of absence. Like there was nothing there. There was nothing for us to grasp of what we should do other than here's paper. And we could have just done what the other games have done. And don't get me wrong, those games are good. They are. But this one's just, it was just a little bit different. But the idea, it reminded me of why communication was something important in every kind of way. Go back to gaming. It's hard to talk to somebody that does not speak the same language as you, correct? But there's some ways that we do connect, whether that's through memes or through emotes, and it's just that ounce of language that it's hard to explain. It's easy to communicate through memes and just things that we all are familiar with, even if they're in their different languages. And it's interesting because while going through the whole amount of text and notes, I've only found a few that weren't in English, which was actually very interesting, and I thought it was cool. But I ventured on, and it was kind of wholesome. They gave you little checkpoints, and sometimes players would block the path, but there was other players that decided that was kind of annoying. Let's build around that. And it's interesting of how the path, well, it does stay straight. It kind of strays to the left, to the right, and then we see someone's build and what's supposed to be a little base camp or whatever it's called. I thought it was cute, and I thought it was interesting. Each note can just hold information that is just not important or has no meaning, and then there's some that have interesting text, and then there's some that's like, this is a little corny, don't talk anymore. But I think it's interesting because each player places the text not thinking about whether or not someone's going to actually see it, because there's a potential that they might not see it unless it's right in your face. Something that I did notice was that it got somewhat darker. And this is something I didn't realize until I looked into the chat and realized, oh wait, yeah, it's starting to get darker. But they were talking about something else. They were talking about something else, and fun fact, I got started on that already. And we'll get into that at the end. But for this, I wasn't sure. There was a lot of text telling me, turn back, there's nothing up here, there's no badge, there's nothing. It's just the void. These letters are lying to you. That was a whole ton of pages just telling me, don't listen to the other notes. This is a lie. Like, go back. I know they were probably trolling, but I think it adds to the ambiance of void and notes. But I got some very good notes telling us to continue our journey, and I did. And I did find something. I did get badges. I had gotten a badge called Mid, which I don't think I really need to really explain, but it's Mid. And I continued on, and I was wondering how long it'd be until I reached the next point, which brings me back to the next badge. And we're basically set into space. And if you're wondering, I did leave some notes, so if you do find it, you will not find it because it does not have a name. Cool fact about these notes. And I don't find it bad at all. They don't have a name. You can examine and they'll show you the account ID, but you won't know the actual name unless they input it, which it kind of is interesting because it's like, if you really wanted to know who typed this text, you have to examine and go onto the Roblox website and put their ID and then find them, which is like, it adds to it. I keep saying interesting. Count how many times I've said interesting. There's no other word to describe other than interesting. So yes, we continue on and on, but I'm going to cut this for you because this took hours. And this exact clip is 3 hours. Yes, it's 3 hours of me. And this was from like other stuff that I was doing. So take that down to 2 hours. I took 2 hours just exploring. But now we are reaching towards the end. And it looked like our journey was an end. It was ending here. There was nothing else, nothing left. I jumped, wanted to see if any more pages were loading, but no, that was it. So, in my last little bit of hurrah, I left a page that is for me to remember. But leading back to the end of this video, hopefully, because we're not trying to make this like 20 minutes of a video, but I continued. There's more badges, there's more to obtain. I just didn't record it, and that probably took me probably 3 hours too of just walking. But I do have some pictures, and I will show you these pictures. However, I do have more to explore. So, while I share these pictures, let me remind you, I'm going to try and do a part 2, because this was just a game that I thought was interesting, and I think for this time and now of what we're going through specifically for the Roblox community, I think this is something that really was interesting, and I don't know, I liked it.